Hello, I'm Bob Matheny. I'm Mayor of Zebulon, and this is, of course, the Zebulon Mayor Show. Glad to have you today. I'm going to be winging it on my own to kind of bring you up to date on some things that have happened over the last month and a half, just to kind of keep you filled in about what's going on in town government. As you're aware, our regular meeting, which is the first Monday of each month, is filmed for this station, and hopefully you've been able to watch that. But we film that every month. We do have generally two other meetings during the month. One is a work session and usually a public hearing on both of them really on an as-needed basis. And those are pretty interesting meetings, especially the work session. So we've had a couple of work sessions since I filmed the last show, and I wanted to tell you what went on there, and also we had one public hearing. So going back in March, we had a request for a rezoning. The request was by Donald Pulley to rezone a tract of land over on Moss Road. Moss Road runs south off of Barbie Street. It's on the west side of Wakefield between Barbie and Highway Business 64. But anyway, it's Doug Cook's old welding shop, if any of you happen to remember Douglas Cook, who's now deceased, but he lived in that area and had a welding shop there forever and a day. Well, that property was zoned residential and the shop building was still there, and Mr. Pulley wanted to, I believe, put automotive repair shop in the old welding shop, but according to the way the zoning was not being allowed to do that. So he requested to have that piece of land, it's actually 1.27 acres, rezoned to heavy business, so that he could operate automobile repair shop in that building. Right across the street is the old shop of Bobby Driver, which he did, equipment maintenance, welding, all sorts of things over there. And it is currently zoned heavy business, so there's heavy business right adjacent to this property already there. Well, long story short, we held the public hearing, and Mr. Pulley made his request. We subsequently, the planning board met that evening and made a recommendation back to the town board, not that evening, but at a subsequent meeting. And we did rezone that piece of property. So it put it back the way it was before we did a comprehensive rezoning some years ago, and I think that one just got caught up in the net and got caught wrong. That's my personal opinion. So anyway, the town board did rezone the property and allow Mr. Pulley to operate a business there. We had a work session in March, which was really, I thought, a very interesting meeting. We had David Cook and David King. David Cook's county manager, and David King from the Wake County Transit Plan. And they came down and was, we call this the David and David show, but they've been going around to different municipalities and presenting the scenario of the half-cent sales tax that would support transit in Wake County. I believe it's Orange County, I think, or Durham, I'm not sure which, but one of those has already approved the half-cent sales tax for the transit plan. The transit plan includes future light rail or commuter rail, bus service. So what Zebulon would get out of this is proposed to be a more comprehensive bus service, more buses running during the day, and hopefully even helping with a circulator plan within the community. I personally feel that the circulator plan would be very beneficial to go around the community and pick up people from various locations, and then could take them to the express stop, which would allow them to catch the bus to go to Raleigh, to Wendell, Nightdale, Wake Med, or downtown Raleigh to connect to points to other parts of the county. Anyway, there was no action taken. It was just an informational presentation. And we also had Dr. Michael Sonera, who was with the John Locke Foundation, came in and spoke against the program. So we gave both of them an equal opportunity to talk to us. And that's really what it was, just presenting information as opposed to asking us to make a final decision. We then revisited an issue that we had tabled, and that had to do with the selling or the leasing of the old municipal buildings downtown. We still have the council chambers rather, on Horton Street. We have the old town hall and the old police station that we have had listed for about a year and a half now, maybe a little longer than that. We've had them listed for sale, and we had taken bids on from real estate companies, proposals I should say, rather than bids, to help us market these buildings. Parish Realty and Carolinic Realty were the two that put in a proposal. Parish Realty has had it from the start, and we really haven't had any luck. Actually, we sold the old recreation and water plant building down near the post office on Vance Street, and actually William Parrish was the purchaser on that. But nonetheless, we've not had much activity. So about 6 months ago, we said, well, we're going to give Parish Realty 6 more months to see what they can do. And we recognize it's been a flat economy and it's a hard time to be selling buildings. But nonetheless, that decision came back to us to decide whether to stay with them or whether to try a different realtor. The board decided to give the listing to Carolinic Realty. Nothing against Parish Realty. We just felt like it was time to try a new market and a new merchandiser to see if they could perhaps reach some clientele that might be interested in the buildings. We also, if we could get market lease, would be interested in doing some leasing. We've had several people approach us, primarily churches, that wanted to lease the buildings. Well, we actually had one that wanted to buy one of the buildings, but didn't want to pay but about half of the appraised value for it. But we've had several people want to lease the buildings, but basically they wanted to lease them for basically nothing. So we've shied away from that. We feel that it's our responsibility to the taxpayers to get a fair market return on these buildings. So in any event, Carolinic has the go-ahead to look for tenants as well as buyers. So we're just trying somebody else, and we'll see what happens. We then talked about stormwater billing. You may be aware that we were required to put in a stormwater plan to handle water. The old days of getting the water to the street and it just takes care of itself from that, those days are gone. And the federal government has stepped in, Environmental Protection Agency or EPA, the state environmentalists have stepped in. And so now we're required to really manage stormwater, which has to do a lot with impervious surfaces such as paved areas, rooftops, just general runoff in general. So we've had to put in a stormwater plan, which basically is costing the town about $160,000 a year right now to put it in, and this is one of those unfunded mandates, that things that we are required to do, but we're not given any money to help us do it. And we're not in this boat by ourselves. All the other communities, at least in Wake County, are in the same boat. But nonetheless, we were trying to determine how to collect stormwater fees. So we've been talking with the City of Raleigh about attaching them to the water and water utility bills, and that's what we're doing. We had to pay Raleigh some money in order for them to modify their billing system to be able to do that, and so we've agreed to do that. If you've looked at your water bill lately, and I'm sure you have, with great horror, but you've noticed that there is a stormwater fee on there too. So that's what the way we chose to collect it. We also then looked at new stormwater fees for the upcoming year, and basically staff had presented us with, I think 3 or 4 different scenarios, and the one that we chose was that basically the residential fee is $2 a month. What we're doing is recovering 50% of our stormwater cost, or the implementation of the stormwater plan. Says we've had to establish a stormwater division, if you will, under our public works. And as I said earlier, it's about $160,000 a year for this. So what we've done is we're recovering or trying to recover all non-personnel operating and assigned capital costs. So that's saying that this fee would cover everything except the cost of personnel. So we're getting about half of it back. There's other fees for businesses and commercial industry as well. I'm not going to go through that. I'll be glad to get that information for anybody that wants it. But the bottom line is for a resident, it's $2 a month. And again, it's attached to your water bill. We also then revisited an issue where we had talked about an ethics policy for the town of Zebulon. Actually, there has been an ethics policy for the town employees, and this one started off being an ethics policy just for the Board of Commissioners. We expanded it to encompass everyone, all town officials, employees, as town officials being board members, elected officials, as well as department heads and other employees. Basically, we were required to adopt an ethics policy, and as an elected official, we're required to take ethics training every time we're reelected. But the policy, I'm not going to go through it. It's rather lengthy, but the bottom line is that it is an effort to establish that no board member or town official would do anything that is simply to their benefit and not for the benefit of the town as a whole. This includes any types of gifts or kickbacks or anything of this nature, just good common sense, but it's in writing now, and we adopted it that evening. We made a few modifications to the original proposal. The other towns in the areas have them as well, and we looked at their policies as I'm sure they've looked at ours, just to get ideas from each other. But again, we just it's an attempt to assure the public that we're looking after your best interest and not our best interest, ours being our individual best interest. So if you're interested in that, the copy's available at Town Hall. We'd be glad to get you a copy, and if you have any comments, I'd be glad to hear those as well. We then talked about each year we have what I've referred to as philanthropic money. It's actually nonprofit funding, I think, is the way that our staff refers to it. But each year we have a presentation to offer various groups, generally nonprofit groups, the opportunity to come before the board and ask to be considered for some funding in the upcoming budget year. Again, we'll go into my personal opinion. I think all of these are really good organizations and deserving organizations. However, I've always felt that first things first. So what town government is required to do is to look after the business of the town first, and then if you're able to make any contributions to nonprofits or these groups, well and good. If you're not, then again, first things first. The services that you're obligated to provide to the citizens must be funded first. We have a policy here in Zebulon that in any one year we would not make donations of more than $5,000 in total to these nonprofit groups, with no more than $1,000 to any one. Now we're willing to entertain the requests that they make, but we have stuck to this now for many, many years. At one time, it sort of ran rampant. I mean, we had everybody knocking at the door, and we were giving away more money, quite frankly, than I thought we should, because I again thought that first things first, and that was that the business of government in the town, the services we provide should come first. However, having said all of that, we had a request from the United Arts Council. They had requested last year $2,000, being $1,000 per year over 2 years, and we agreed to do that. So the second year request was for $1,000, and so we tentatively approved that money to them. And I say tentative because the budget has really been tough this year, and we're still visiting the budget to try to decide what's the best way to handle it and fund and maintain the services that we want to provide. So these numbers are all tentative. They're not final approvals, and you need to certainly understand that. Eastwick Education Foundation asked for, I was thinking it was $1,500. Yes, they asked for $1,500. And as I told you, the maximum allowable is $1,000. So we tentatively approved $1,000 for them. The Martin Luther King Breakfast asked for $1,000. We tentatively approved $500 for them. The Zebulon Chamber of Commerce has asked for $1,000, and we tentatively approved $1,000 for them. Now that $1,000 really, we started doing that several years ago, and it really has to do with the Christmas parade. As you may be aware, the Christmas parade is put on and sponsored by the Zebulon Chamber, and they came to the town some years ago and decided that they needed liability insurance for the parade, and they did not have the money to buy it. And at that time, the annual premium was $1,000. So we started giving them $1,000 to help towards the purchase of liability insurance for the parade. We had Wake County Human Services, which is TRAX, which is a commuter bus service. They actually asked for $15,000, and they have for many years asked for $10,000 to $15,000. We did not approve anything. We've asked TRAX before to give us statistics of how much service they're actually providing to Zebulon citizens, Zebulon taxpayers, because this is taxpayers' money, and we've yet to receive that information. But anyway, this is $15,000 is way and beyond what we would give. Again, as I've told you already, $1,000 is the max per unit. Shepherd's Medical Care asked for $1,000, or they received $1,000 last year, and so we have tentatively approved $1,000 to be spent on Zebulon citizens, the services to Zebulon citizens. Hope Line asked for $1,000. We did not do anything with that. We had Interact, which is a family violence prevention center, ask for $1,000. We did not do anything with that. And Zebulon Youth Football asked for $1,000, and we did not do anything with that. So the total funding requested was $22,500. The tentative approval was for $4,500. The other $500 of the $5,000 was left to just be able to have a little latitude during the year if something came along that we wanted to help out with. Again, these numbers are tentative. I don't know if they're going to stay the same. As I say, it's a really tough budget year. We're having a really hard time balancing the budget. So I don't know where these numbers will end up, but that's what we, tentatively told staff we would approve, and that's where the money would go. We then just had a simple thing where we recognized $7,500 in insurance proceeds for repair to a police vehicle that was involved in an accident. So we just simply recognized the receipt of that $7,500. We then talked about what's known as a multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. We're required to have and do have a hazard mitigation plan, which is a plan that says, okay, here's what we think might be the potential hazards to the town, i.e. hurricanes, earthquakes. Of course, I realize that's a very minimal exposure, but hurricanes, we could have chemical spills, any type of major hazard, and it's how would we handle it, how would we mobilize, how would we deal with FEMA, how would we help each other out, each other being municipality to municipality. And we have to have that plan and have to have it approved, and we work with FEMA to do this as well. So what is being proposed is that there be a multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan, meaning that all of the governments of Wake County would combine and have interlocal agreements and one hazard mitigation plan, which allows us all to work together better, rather than each of us having our own plan. So what we're looking at is the 12 municipalities and the County of Wake, which makes 13 that would be put into one. So anyway, we talked about that, and we've actually moved forward with that now so that we would not have individual hazard mitigation plans. The police department then came and wanted to talk about downtown traffic regulations. Basically, they wanted to put in a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit downtown right through the central business district. We actually approved that evening to try to slow the traffic down there. They also then were wanting to propose or put in 2-hour parking limits downtown during certain times. So what we did was we asked them to carry that to the downtown committee and see how they felt about it before we just went in and did it. We got a very positive feedback from them. They thought it was a good proposal, and you may, if you've been downtown recently, notice that the street is marked, the parking spaces are marked 2-hour parking. That does not apply, I think, late in the evening or on the weekends. When some people are shopping down there, they'll stay there more than 2 hours, but this was at their request. They thought that it was a good idea to have it, but they also wanted us to modify those hours. So we did, and at a subsequent meeting, we approved that as well. That 2-hour parking is on Main Street and 200 feet each side down the side streets, with the exception of where there's residential housing within 200 feet, such as on Sycamore Street, for example. So anyway, that's what we did with that. Just two other things very quickly. We won an award from the city of Raleigh for our stormwater plan that we had put together. Rick Harden and I went up and I accepted that, along with people from Wendell and Roseville. So it was an award to all three of us. We're very proud to have received that and appreciate that recognition. Let's see, what else did I have? I went before the city of Raleigh to ask about our utility merger agreement modification. Actually, I didn't get anywhere with them, but I was asking for us to be able to retain some water capacities. I was able to show them how we could retain them and have the same rate structures, but they weren't hearing it. They wanted the water back, so they took it back. They took it, in my opinion, because it was just of such value to them. But the point is that I tried, and just really didn't have any luck. Some of the Raleigh council members listened, but some of them didn't. And staff certainly didn't. They wanted that 300,000 gallons back. Primarily, we were able to buy it initially at around $4.40 a gallon. Today's value is $7.50 a gallon, so immediately they got an asset, that shot up that much. It's projected to go to as high as $15 to $19 a gallon. So if we ever need it back, we're going to pay dearly for it. So that's why I was trying to get that. Didn't have any luck. Well, I've rambled around and told you a lot of things that have happened over time. I hope you find some of this interesting and useful. If you have any questions on any of it, please, don't hesitate to give me a call. I'll respond, and if I don't know the answer to your question, I'll get it for you. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you next month.